are. So please. So Ale, up to you, please.
Yes, we're starting the recording so that now we have everything recorded back on track. And yeah, let me share the screen. No, I'm gonna share the screen.
Yeah, please.
Okay. So, can you see my screen?
Kind of weird. Oh, now yes. Yeah. Perfect.
Okay, perfect. So, hello everybody. What is Yes Europe? Yes Europe is an NGO youth organization whose mission is to catalyze the energy transition by creating an environment where youth are given a space to develop ideas, take on responsibility, build their local community, and act for change. Yes Europe is a community created to empower students and young professionals across Europe. And in Yes, basically, we network and establish meaningful connections. We exchange knowledge and disseminate it through events. And we are also creative and engage with stakeholders of the energy sector. All of this to shape a sustainable future. So by joining Yes Europe, young people who are interested in being active in the European energy transition can more easily do so by getting access to our European network. And this all started in 2016. It kicked off in Switzerland from a group of 50 students from 9 European countries. And let me say that around that time, Switzerland and Germany were discussing to step out of nuclear energy. So Katia Paramonova, that is our founder, came up with the idea to meet and talk about this topic with other energy students. And the idea of Yes sparked. And by the way, if you're interested to learn about our founder, we released a podcast episode and where we interviewed her. She was nominated in the Forbes 30 Under 30 list, and check it out on Spotify channel. It's Talk Energy with Yes Europe. So currently we're active on both a European and a local level, which means that our community is expanding constantly and in 2 directions and opening opportunities for those who want to act on a national level and on a European level. So this is our organic structure. Yes has a board of members, and then the community is channeled via different teams that work on different macro topics. Then every active Yes country has a team led by a CR, that's a country representative, and together they organize debates, talks, and any other type of interesting events to promote our vision on a national level. This is the policy team 2022. I present you the team. Actually, it should be a bit updated now because we have our entries like Zeynep and Carla that will be promptly inserted in the PowerPoint. And we have a lot of interesting colleagues from all over the world. There's a team leader, Beatriz, Ginelle, Gulnush, Gianluca, Vasco, Sagar, and the team is also expanding. So this would not be our first big open online event organized by the policy team. Last week, for example, we held a debate with the EAYN on African-European exchange on the energy transition. And this month, we're organizing a policy scenario game together with the InnoEnergy community. Our main goal for these first months of action have been to understand how Yes Europe can start taking its first steps in the energy policy field. Policy hasn't been really in our core activities so far, so we don't really have any defined political view on the energy transition. This event, among many others that we're organizing, is meant as a first contact for us, of our community, and for everyone. Welcome now to the nuclear debate.
Oh, thank you, Alessandro, for your great presentation. I will take back the control and...
Okay, I'm stuck.
Stop,
please. Guys, okay, the audio, thank you, guys. That's always fun to hear different people for different parts of the world. Now I'll share the screen again and we'll, okay. Okay, as I said you before, we're gonna through some ice-breaking activities, and the first is fact checks. So we're gonna present you some fact checks about nuclear power, and the first one is that the increasing global trend in nuclear energy generation masks the large differences in what role it plays at the country level. Some countries get no energy at all from nuclear, or are aiming to eliminate it completely, whilst others get the majority of their power from it. But globally, around 10% of the electricity we use comes from nuclear, but some country relies on it heavily. it provides more than 70% of electricity in France and more than 40% in Sweden. So as you can see on the left side, there is like this map that is basically giving you an overview of the nuclear energy electricity production in Europe. As you can see, France has the majority in gigawatt hour, followed by Germany. So this is a fact check that you probably know, but it's also highlighting how a lot of countries in Europe do not rely on nuclear power at all. So there are no generation, for example, in Italy. So the second fact check that we're gonna present you today is about resources. So when we speak about energy, resources are always one of the critical aspects to consider. So based on Statista analysis in 2020, 555 metric tons of nuclear uranium, natural uranium, were imported into the European Union from Niger. So Niger was accordingly the largest source of uranium imports to the EU that year. And differently from what we used to see in the Simpson, uranium is a silver green metal that is mainly known for its nuclear properties. So again, this fact check does give you a perspective. We want to give you a perspective about how important is the resources for energy production, and also during these days and age that we are experiencing some geopolitical problems in the East Europe, we are all kind of get used to the importance of being independent on a resource level. And in fact, after Niger, the main importer of natural uranium in Europe was Russia, followed by Canada and Kazakhstan, with each of them more than 2,000 metric tons of natural uranium imported in Europe. So that's another fact that you probably have already known, but I think that's great to put a silver light on the resources side. And the third and last fact checks, it comes with cost competitiveness. That has always been one of the aspects used to criticize and doubt on nuclear power. And based on Lazard's LCOE analysis into 2021, the mean LCOE for nuclear has been estimated to be $161 per megawatt hour, most of which involves capital cost. As you can see also on the infographic shown on the left side, the cost of energy for renewable energy sources dropped during the last decade compared to an almost constantly increasement of the nuclear mean LCOE, levelized cost of energy, for those that do not know. But I want to point it out that this analysis is based on unsubsidized energy resources, so not everything is taken into account. So fact checks are done. Now we'll move to the polls. We have some polls prepared for you, and I'm gonna start. Now we will see, you will have a pop-up window shown on your screen. There will be 4 questions that we will want you to answer. And yeah, let me know if you're having some problem. And yeah, I will give you 1 up to 2 minutes for filling the polls. So I will read it out loud. So the first question is, based on your knowledge on nuclear, how would you define nuclear power? Option 1, safe and environmentally friendly. Option 2, risky technology yet environmentally friendly. And option 3, hazardous technology and environmentally harmful. The second question is, what's your vision for nuclear in the future of European energy mix? The first option is, spoiled. Nuclear power is replaceable by other energy sources, thus not promising. Second option is nuclear power is essential to ensure climate neutral energy supply. And the third is others. And let us know in the chat what you think about it, if you have different ideas rather than what we put this as an option. So the third is regarding power in Europe. Do you see, regarding nuclear power in Europe, do you see it as A, a short midterm solution, B, a long-term solution, C, not a solution, D, no opinion, I'm here to clear my thoughts. And the last but not the least question is, have you ever visited a nuclear waste storage facility? Let us know. The options are yes, it was safe and insightful, B, yes, it was dangerous, and 3, no, but I like to do so, I like to visit, and the last one is no, because I'm scared. So we have 36 out of 47 participants that have replied. So I wait to a couple of maybe 30 seconds more, then we stop the poll. So I hope you are enjoying this first part. Now we're gonna jump in the core of the event.
Yes, Giallo, Benedetta has managed to enter. She's with us and she's ready.
Nice. Good to hear it. So, okay, I think that 40 out of 46, now 41, 42. So let's have 3 minutes in total. Okay, so 20 seconds left. Maybe I can start presenting you the debaters. So today we have Benedetta Scuderi and Johan Christian Sollid. So I will start from Benedetta, and Benedetta comes from Italy. She studied law and then graduated in management, energy and corporate social responsibilities and sustainable studies from Bocconi. And recently she pursued a master's in public policy at UCL. Currently, she is a sustainability consultant and specializes, among other things, in green policies and environmental law. But most important, Benedetta is an executive committee member at FYEG, Federation of Young European Greens. So thank you, Benedetta, for attending today, for being here for the debate. And the second debater is Johan. So Johan Christian Sollid comes from Germany. He has a background in political sciences and he is currently studying for a master in social data science. So what does he have to do with nuclear? Johan is the founder and chairperson of Foreningen Atomkraft Ja Tack, nuclear power yes please, probably the Denmark's most prominent climate organization. He has appeared on multiple Danish TV stations and radios, appeared in national newspaper, visited elementary school, and has written widely circulated articles regarding nuclear. So thanks again, Johan, for being here. Please use applause for both of them. And I think that we can jump into the debate. So I will tell you again how is the format. So we'll have a 5 rounds with 5 questions with 2 minutes round for each question. So for example, Benedetta will start, she will answer the question, then Johan will have 2 minutes more to reply, and at the end of this round there will be the possibility to Benedetta to answer back to Johan, or to answer back to add something. And for the second question, Johan will start and until the end. So let me sip a bit of water and we can start. So just a sec. Okay. I have to find also the timer. Sorry guys, just a second. We have a timer prepared and this presenting is not the best. Wait to me. Okay. Anyway, I will have my hands. So first questions. We're gonna talk about sustainable taxonomy. So in February 2022, nuclear was included in the EU taxonomy together with gas and will receive from private and EU funds investments labeled as green investments. Thus, the European Union has decided to label nuclear energy as a transitional status under the recent Sustainable Taxonomy framework. So the question is, Benedetta, what is the effect of private initiatives in nuclear technologies in the short and long term, now that the EU has introduced it in the taxonomy for sustainable investments? 2 minutes starting now.
Thank you for the question. Okay, first of all, I would like to say that I find quite a unique decision from the European Union to add nuclear in the taxonomy, but this is not the theme of the question, so I'm not going to go down that road. So what is going to happen for private investments? Well, for sure, if investment is considered as green, we know that that increase the possibilities of the investment to actually happen. But then, of course, investors, they follow some financial rules to make investments. And the financial rules are mostly, like, of course, I'm not financial investors, but the main rules are the return on investment rate, the return on investment time, and risk of the investment. So with nuclear, what happens is, although it's considered a green investment, so it receives a lot of benefits for that, which is also like we need to understand how many investors are going to consider that green anyway, because some financial institutions are saying that this is not considered as a sustainable investment. But anyway, this is another thing. But then what happens with the private investors is that they're going to still consider these other variables that we said before. And with nuclear, we know that to build a nuclear plant, we need right now between 7 and 15 years. And so the return on investment is going to happen when the nuclear power plant has started to function and that reaches break-even. And the break-even starts after the break-even is doing some profits. So this is most likely going to happen in 16 years' time, which in financial terms is a huge amount of time because it gets a lot of risk. So we have the return on investment rate that is still very risky because we don't know what is going to be the most profitable energy source in 15 years time. And then we have a risk that in 15 years time, this is not the best investment anymore. Plus it's a huge time for investment. So I really don't know if there's going to be so many private investors that are going to still willing to invest in nuclear energy.
Okay, thanks. Perfect on time. So yeah, Johan, it's your turn.
Yeah. First of all, I would say that we're witnessing a very important time in history right now that we haven't talked about. It's about the energy crisis that started last year with lower wind speeds and sanctions against Russian gas, which has made electricity prices all over Europe skyrocket. So this combined with the nuclear phase out in Germany has played Europe in a serious pickle between energy sovereignty and green transition. And while this happens, as we're discussing now, is whether nuclear should be included in the green taxonomy. And formally, this has happened as the EU committee, as we know, put it in the delegated act in February and included it as a sustainable green energy source, which can only be stopped by an absolute majority in the European Parliament or member states. But the most important thing for nuclear getting into the taxonomy is, in my point of view, not the financial aspect. It's getting the stamp as being an actually more green energy source than other sources in the taxonomy already included. And that is if we listen to the scientific consensus in the area, and they say that nuclear undoubtedly is the energy source that releases the less amount of CO2 in a life cycle assessment analysis, that you're taking everything in the life cycle into account. And this includes the mining of uranium, the transport, the building, the maintenance, and the decommissioning of nuclear power plants. This is the conclusion from the leading scientific agencies all over the world, which is including the UNESCO, the European Committee for Economy, the IPCC, the Joint Research Center of the European Commission, and the International Energy Agency. So there's a large body of scientific independent knowledge that say that nuclear is the greenest. And this will undoubtedly have an effect on the public opinion across Europe, as the anti-scientific organization in Europe will be loose to a strong and independent science-based conclusion, which we all must follow in this fight against climate change.
Okay, thanks. So you will have the possibility to add something, Benedetta, so you will have 1 minute more. So please, if you want. Okay, you have some problems.
Okay, yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, great, thank you. Sorry, I had to take off my headphones. So I want to add two things. One thing is the start of what Johan said, that electricity prices are very high right now, which is true, but this is a very unique situation, and we don't know, as I said, what is going to happen in 15 years' time when the investment on nuclear plants are going to be actually having a return, because of course maybe the renewable technologies is going to be so improved that the electricity prices, because already the electricity prices of the renewable technologies are more competitive, right, than nuclear, because they are less expensive. And the second thing I want to say is that something that needs to be very well underlined, that gas and nuclear are in the EU taxonomy just as a transition source of energy, not as a just totally green source of energy. And there's a lot of disagreement on that within the European Union. And they say that nuclear energy is considered a green just in 2045, the permitted projects in 2045. So we are not saying that nuclear energy is green, we're just saying what you is saying is that could be a way to transit.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Benedetta. We have your point. I think that's, sorry, the minute was expired, so we have to jump to the second question. Sorry for interrupting you, but I have to do the time manager. So now the second question is, we already spoke about the market competitiveness of nuclear power. About the criticism arisen on the nuclear power and its cost competitiveness. So the second question is, nuclear plants are historically financed by national governments to overcome the high capex costs. Today, is nuclear energy competitive in the energy market? So please, Johan, that's now it's your.
Yeah, just to clarify some things about the LCOE that you presented in the start of the presentation, that was from Lazard, which is an investment bank in America taking different investment rates for nuclear energy sources. But if you listen to the International Energy Agency, which put out their flagship report in 2020 called Project the Cost of Electricity, where they set the investment rate for the discount rate for energy sources at 3% for all energy sources, you see that nuclear globally and in Europe is 45% cheaper than offshore wind. Nuclear, it costs $45 per megawatt hour produced, and offshore wind costs $66 per megawatt.
Johan, you mute yourself. I don't know how.
Was I unmuted the whole time, or
no? We got
okay, perfect. I don't know how it happened.
The marginal cost.
Yeah. Okay. 100%. But the reason why the nuclear is the most, or the difference between nuclear and offshore wind, is that is a standalone technology that doesn't need backup capacity from fossil fuel plants. And that's also very important when talking about nuclear compared to wind and solar. It's comparing like bananas and pears. It's not actually durable, because wind and solar produce as the wind blows as an intermediate source of energy, as nuclear produce stable amounts of energy. But this doesn't mean that wind isn't a good investment. It just needs to have a backup, and this backup needs to be nuclear. And the latest scientific publications in Nature's the scientific magazine Nature, and a study from Netherlands, show that combination between wind and nuclear is the best way to decarbonize a society. But to make a more genuine price comparison between wind and solar, wind and nuclear, we have to take all of these system costs into account that comes with the intermediate energy sources as wind and solar. So this concerns the so-called integration cost, which covers profile, balancing, and grid costs. And these costs are like having a gas plant in backup, or putting out your electricity grid for the wind and solar, and they are not included in the price comparisons. And the scientific papers that are studied these system LCOE costs show that when wind covers 40% of the electricity in a country, the externalities, the backup cost is as high as the generation cost of wind and solar. So we have to see a more nuanced way in this perspective instead of just comparing two energy sources.
Okay, thank you, Johan. Now, yeah, it's your turn to reply, Benedetta.
Thank you. Okay, I would like to say that I think it's not absolutely true that we are comparing pears and bananas, as we know that the technology also for storing renewable energy production, so the energy produced by the renewable energies is improving, and we are also trying to find many ways to make it more sustainable that are very promising. So once you have the storage, you can actually, you will not need a base load. There's something that I would like to add on the nuclear cost. So it is true that many studies are saying that nuclear costs are decreasing, but then we see what is actually happening in the reality is that we have many cases, like we have cases in the UK where the nuclear, the construction of the Hinkley Point in Somerset has the number of years have increased so much that now the taxpayers are going to pay for more than 35 years to actually have a nuclear power plant. Even worse, what is happening in France, where we have Flamanville that was budgeted for 3.4 billion, and now it's already over budget that for 7 billion, and this already is going over time of already 15 years to be built, and it's projected that the overall cost is going to be 19.1 billion, and this is a huge cost on taxpayers, and I don't see how this can be really considered sustainable and competitive within the market, especially in a market where there's other kind of energy sources that which the cost is extremely decreasing. And so, as I said, this is not anymore pears and bananas, it's becoming more and more comparable. So the competitiveness, I think, it needs to be seen from the data we have and what has been happening, also considering the issues of permitting and of the opposing to nuclear power construction that are delaying the actual building of the plant and are making the cost much higher.
Okay, that was the timer expiring, so you probably noticed. Now it's your turn to reply, Johan. I know.
Yeah, as you said yourself, you have storage that need to be implemented to have a fair price comparison. So you don't also have the storage price to be included as the grid prices and the backup externalities for wind and solar, which making a fair comparison between the two energy sources. And the technologies that you're talking about, sustainable grid storage, I presume it's battery and power to X. That's not technologies we have seen proven in big energy systems. We have not seen them used as storage anywhere. It's a climate gamble for us to believe that we can just build a lot of fluctuating energy sources and just hope that we will have a battery storage technology or power tech that would work in a big energy system. Why shouldn't we go back in history and see which kind of countries made their fastest decarbonization of their societies, which is Sweden, Switzerland, France, which all were through nuclear power. We have never done this renewable kind of thing where we would do with batteries and technology that doesn't even exist. So I think it's irresponsible of people thinking of batteries and power to X as the savior of wind and solar. It's just not doable.
Okay. Thank you guys for your opinion. Both strong and really well pointed out. We have your point, and we're sure that the 2 minutes are not enough, 3 minutes are not enough to arrive to an end of the discussion. But let's jump to the third question. The third question is more about the social perspective of nuclear. That's really important when we're talking about nuclear power. So we want to ask you which institutions discuss and regulate nuclear energy policies and how much is influencing the public opinion nowadays in the decision making, whether they were in favor of nuclear power or not. So Benedetta, it's your turn. So
okay, thank you. So there are many agencies internationally and European days that are regulating nuclear power. But I don't think that these are the agencies that are mostly influenced by the public opinion. Who is influenced by the public opinion is the institutions that have the last saying on the nuclear power, which are governments, which are parliaments. Of course, they got elected, and they really need to be careful about the public opinion. And the public opinion on nuclear power has always been very strong. For yes or for no, but it's always been very strong. And there is a reason behind this, because nuclear power is not like any other kind of energy. Nuclear power has been, throughout the years, an energy that has caused incredibly big damages. And we can see that this really influenced the public opinion, and then the public opinion really much influences the actual outcome of nuclear powers. And that is also something that will have an effect on the investment you make, because then if something happens and the public opinion changes, then the investments that you made will not be profitable. And the problem is that an iconic case is the Italian case. Sorry, I'm Italian, I've reviewed a lot of Italian cases, but like in Italy, Chernobyl happened in 1996. In 1987, we had a referendum saying that we didn't want nuclear in Italy. And in 1211, we had Fukushima happened, and we had the referendum saying again, we don't want nuclear in Italy, because we saw the effects and the huge damages that nuclear power can do. And that also, the public opinion has another power, which is even for countries that want nuclear power plant, then you need to find communities that actually want the nuclear power plant and the nuclear waste deposits next to them. And you have a huge NIMBY syndrome that is stopping again more nuclear projects. So that's a huge influence of the public opinion, and I thought.
Okay, thank you, Benedetta, for your opinion. Now your turn to answer back, Johan. I know that it's your field, so let us know.
I agree on a lot of points that Benedetta makes. Is that public opinion is very strong in nuclear, both pro and con. But in my opinion, that is not an argument against nuclear power. That's just depressing in the case for nuclear, because if you have to look at which kind of way that we have to solve climate change, it all comes down to listening to the science. That is what we all talked about these couple of years. And the science is very clear. You have the UN, you have the IPCC, you have the UNESCO, you have the IEA, as I talked about, the JIC, the European Commission. They all say that we need nuclear to solve climate change. So maybe the public opinion is against. That's because of a long history association between nuclear weapons, as we're going to talk about later. So it's not like an argument against that, the public against nuclear. It's just depressing fact that we have to deal with, which these kind of like nuclear getting the green stamp in the EU taxonomy will help with. And we already have a lot of European countries which are pro-nuclear. Even Germany, a majority in Germany wants to reopen the reactors after they closed them. In Finland, the Green Party just announced that they have put nuclear into their political program. Sweden has a majority. Nearly Denmark is shifting to pro-nuclear. Also Britain, you have France, you have, as I said, Finland. So the tide is changing, and that's good, because then we have the people with us, and the people is in the end the ones actually deciding which kind of energy source we are going to use. And it's looking great for nuclear, actually. It's a nuclear renaissance, we could say.
You want to do you have anything to add, to reply to, Benedetta?
Yeah, we'll take very short. I completely agree with John, that public opinion shouldn't be the reason why we're not having nuclear or why we're having it. But then I also think that the fear of the public opinion is not due to nuclear weapons, but it's been due to the actual damages that have been caused by nuclear power plants. And then the risk that is on nuclear power plants, and on the problems that we have on waste management and that we have on waste for future generation. That is where the public opinion is coming from, and not considering the opinion of the people on who you're going to put the burden, because then the power plant is not going to be next to the government building. It's going to be next to a community, and that community must have a say in this. Otherwise, this is not socially sustainable.
Yeah. Okay. I think that I kind of feel this topic close to everybody, since I think that everybody wants to live in a more sustainable future, and public opinion has to be a great place in the decision making and policy making, not only regarding nuclear, but regarding the whole energy sector for this in this case. But yeah, let's jump and talk about the elephant in the room. Benedetta, as already spoke about, now we are talking about waste management. So what are the best available technologies and practices today for waste management? I also already asked, we wanted to ask you if you have ever been in to visit a facility storage plant, because we know, and there is plenty of facility also in Europe that are trying to show and to see to highlight the necessity of like decreasing the fear among these facilities. But sorry for speaking too much. Let's leave the floor, Johan. Right.
Yeah, Johan, I think that the nuclear facility that you're talking about is in Carlo in Finland. I'm actually going to visit it on Thursday, flying to Finland to see this like 500 meters down in the bedrock. But back to the question, like nuclear waste it's just very important to clarify that nuclear waste from generating electricity, nuclear power plants, has never killed anyone, like never. The nuclear industry is the only industry in the world that takes 100% responsibility for their wastes. So all over the world, we have nuclear power plants generating small amounts of waste compared to the amounts of electricity they are producing. And this waste is stored in large concrete cylinders, which are called dry cask storage, which are placed right beside the power plant. These casks, they weigh around 100 tons and are shielded with water repellent material in metals and concrete. They're so safe that you can even hug them or drive a train into them or fire a missile or plane. They will not be destroyed. And also about nuclear waste, I think a lot of people don't know what nuclear waste actually is. I've taken a little replica of a nuclear waste. That's a fuel pellet. This is nuclear waste. It's a little metal, a clay lump, where you have uranium in it, and you have a lot of other materials that combine it to make it a fuel pellet. These are put in the reactor, are also taken out. So it's not a green gooey stuff. Yeah. And back to the taxonomy, the JRC, which made the report concerning the taxonomy, concluded that in their technical assessment, which is used by EU, that nuclear waste doesn't cause any significant or long-term harm to the environment. So nuclear waste generates relatively low amounts of long-term, like highly radioactive materials. Most of it is the low radioactive materials, which can be reused, reprocessed in plants in France, England, India, or Japan. Okay. So ironically enough, wind and solar and all the other energy sources are the sources that doesn't have a control over their waste stream, and nuclear actually does. So it's a political problem, not a real scientific problem with the waste.
Okay, thank you, Johan. So we understand that Johan would have dinner in our waste storage facility. Let's hear what's Benedetta idea on waste management. Thank you, Johan.
Okay, I would also have a dinner in a waste facility. I think they're extremely safe on this. I won't say anything. But the problem is not just the waste facility. The problem is, well, first, I want to say something positive on the fact that we are actually improving a lot the waste management. So you asked that, and there's now the possibility of separate radioactive waste from all the rest of materials. So the radioactive amount of waste is reducing. This is true. And the highly radioactive amount of waste is also reducing. Now it accounts for around 1%. I'm saying this to see them for complete transparency. But then the problem is that 1%, the radioactivity or in all their old radioactive waste is also the medium and small radioactive. The radioactivity is not going to fade away, and there is no technology that we know and we will discover that is going to make us able to deal with the radioactivity. Radioactivity needs to fade away with time, which is between 300 and 400 years to actually not be radioactive. So what is my main issue? I have two main issues. One is the fact that we are leaving to future generations a burden that we don't know if they will be able to take. Because if something happens where that deposit is, we don't know if they will have the skills in under 50 years' time to actually deal with that, because we don't know what is going to be the knowledge of nuclear energy in under 50 years' time. That is a huge burden. And as we know, putting a burden on future generation is not sustainable. And the second thing is actually, before having the deposit, what do we do with that? Like, again, Italian case, which is iconic again, in 30 years, we still haven't managed to build a deposit. So our nuclear waste are all over Italy, and they are, we don't know how they've been managed. They are not in a deposit, and this is extremely risky. And this is not just a case of Italy, it's a case of many places, because they don't manage to have deposits because people don't want deposit in their lands.
Okay, thank you, Benedetta. The time has expired 10 seconds ago, so thanks you both of you for being super on time. Now, Johan, if you have anything to add, feel free to.
Yeah, not to be harsh, but what your argumentation a little bit sounds like is a bit of fear mongering. Is what if we have children that are exposed to radiation? What if the containers disappear? What if? The scientific consensus on waste management, and very important to listen to this, says that even if all containers in the Finnish repository 500 meters down below disappeared, and people that lived upon the depository for thousands of years, drank the water, ate the food, they will get an annual dose compared to eating 2 bananas. That's the scientific consensus. So if everything goes wrong, it's 2 bananas. So saying what if we cannot leave it for future generations, that's a lot of what ifs. It's not about science, it's about fear, it's about the unknown. And I don't think that is the way we have to live with the climate change. We have to have solutions now. And we have waited a lot of years with this what if hypothetical question from the anti-nuclear industry. We have to do something now. And if we keep on telling of these fear mongering and scaremongering, we are not going to win this against climate change.
Great. And yeah, please let me also point out that it's also for educate and to inform to the public perspective around nuclear. For example, it's kind of hard to get from the mostly people. So that's also why, yes, Europe is doing such events, in order to inform in 2 different ways, to have a debate, to have different opinions, so that people can make their own thoughts and to make their own conclusion in this case on nuclear power. So thank you again, Johan and Benedetta, for your position. And I think that Johan pointed out several times that we have to listen to the science. And I personally, not as Jesur, but as Gianluca, I subscribe it like 10 times. But let's jump to the next and last question. We always fear about nuclear. We are speaking last few seconds ago. So nuclear fear and nuclear proliferation risk. This is a kind of really hard topic, really hot topic. So is there a correlation between nuclear plants and nuclear weapons? And what is the risk associated with a nuclear power plant? So Benedetta, I think it's your turn. Yeah.
Okay. I don't think there is a correlation between nuclear power plant and nuclear weapons. I mean, probably during the Cold War, but not now. I mean, whoever wanted to build a nuclear weapon has done it, and the 2 scientific branches are so separated and specialized that I don't see the correlation there. There is a correlation, though, between safety within wars and having a nuclear power plant, and I think this is very clear in what is happening in Ukraine. So Russia, some of the first places where Russia went was Chernobyl and was a currently working nuclear power plant. Of course, this is the currently working for two reasons, because you have power on the energy of the country. Of course, you can shut it down, or you can, reduce the amount of energy you can give to the country. But there's also another reason, that is like to scare people, because Russia knows that if you do something like bombing that area, or if the electricity goes down in that area, you're not able to refrigerate. Like if the electricity goes down in an area where a nuclear power plant is, you're not able to refrigerate the nuclear power plant, and you're going to have a Fukushima 2.0. And this is scientific. It's not me rambling. And the problem is Russia is not doing it in Ukraine, of course, because it's on the border with Russia. But what if the war wasn't in Ukraine and was somewhere else very distant? So the fact is that you are giving to a country a free nuclear weapon, because you can do things, or you can make a nuclear power plant extremely risky for the people that live in the country and the neighborhood countries. And this is also proved, like many nuclear power plants in Russia during the Cold War were even like underground, because they were scared of a bombing, because of course it was the Cold War. Now it's not happening anymore, but this is actually a fact.
Okay.
The risk, safety, sorry.
No, time. Thanks. Now it's time for Johan.
I think it's very odd to use Chernobyl as an argument against nuclear safety now, because the Chernobyl back in the 1986 cannot be compared to modern nuclear, but also saying that loss of power at the Chernobyl plant can make a Fukushima 2.0. What? The Fukushima plant accident was a meltdown of a reactor core. The reactor core at the Chernobyl cannot melt down and have the same, there's a containment dome around it, so you cannot have the same kind of meltdown at Chernobyl. And also talking about Fukushima, you have to remember that it was a tsunami caused by the second largest earthquake in our whole modern history that killed 20,000 people. Not a single person to this day, and the UN confirms this every year, has died from radiation from Fukushima. So Fukushima ironically shows how safe nuclear is. And again, about the Chernobyl accident and the fear of these power plants. We have seen so much misinformation about the Ukrainian crisis and war on nuclear. And we have several times seen media come out and disconfirm it, and the International Atomic Energy Agency disconfirming this fact. So using Ukraine and Chernobyl as an argument against nuclear, I think I cannot do that morally myself, because it's two distinctive things. Chernobyl has no connection anymore to modern nuclear at all.
Oh, go ahead, Benedetta.
Okay, I'll take this minute to really clarify what I said, because I've been completely misunderstood. I said that Russia was in the Chernobyl area, but mainly the problem was that it is in an area where there is a currently working nuclear power plant. And if in that area there was a huge safety risk, then that was calmed down. And there's a huge risk right now that if power goes off in the region of Ukraine where the power plant is actually working, that power plant is not going to have the power to refrigerate. And that's why I said, like, it's a currently working nuclear power plant. Of course, it's not Chernobyl. I would never make that comparison. So just to clarify what I said.
Okay, that's great. I think that's, as you can see, nuclear power creates a lot of friction between the parts. But at the same time, I think that a lot of good argumentation from both Benedetta and Johan has been show to you guys, but now it's time for you. It's time for Q&A. So let's open the floor for your questions. I think that Ale helped me. I hope that Ale helped me to collect some questions from the chat, because I wasn't able to do so. So, but
yeah,
first,
there are some questions in the chat. If the ones that wrote the questions want to open their mics, feel free. Otherwise, I'm going to read them. But Please.
Yeah, maybe we can start with like a time scheme. So the first that put the question can go first. So let me, I don't know, Ale, if you have any idea who has to go first.
Yeah, I think the first one was Andrea.
Andrea Fasulo. So if you want to speak out, but if I remember properly, you were unable to speak, but go ahead. So, okay, if in 3, 2, 1. Okay, Andrea asked, why did you consider in the fact check the LCOE and not the energy prices in the market? There is a difference in the energy cost and energy price. I think that Johan has already replied partially to that. If you want to add just a few sentences, Johan, I don't.
Can you just rephrase say the question again? Just short.
Like, why did you consider in the fact check was more for us the question, the LCOE and not the energy prices in the market? So
that's just a big difference because energy prices doesn't reflect the price on the energy source. There's a lot of other factors to say, and every different countries have different taxes on their energy prices, so it's hard to compare different countries' energy prices to each other. Yeah.
For what I know, I think that if we consider an unpriced nuclear power plant with other renewable energy sources on the marginal cost, they're kind of comparable. But I will left you on the chat the sources where we had the information, so we will be able to inform yourself more in depth. So
I would jump on the more recent question. There is Olavur that asks if there is any thoughts about Finnish and Polish Fridays for future supporting nuclear. Maybe this is directed to Johan, I guess.
Well, also to Benedetta. You feel free to mute yourself, guys. Who wants to go first? Benedetta, go first. Any thoughts?
I didn't hear the question, so can you?
Any thoughts about Finnish and Polish Fridays for future supporting nuclear? That's a big statement, I think, from youngsters.
Finnish and Polish. Sorry, Finnish and Polish governments.
No,
I can clarify a little with the question, I think, if it's needed. It's the Finnish movement from Finland and the Polish movement of the Fridays for Future climate organization that are supporting nuclear power. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, everyone. There's so many. I don't think being an environmentalist or being a climate activist means that you don't have to be a pro-nuclear. I think it is a fact that for the climate crisis, nuclear energy could be it as positive outcomes because, of course, got very low emissions. What we are debating here are the impacts of nuclear energy that could be harmful for the environment and for the people and for the health and for safety and security reasons. So I believe that if you're a climate activist, asking John is because he said many times that that one of the reasons because of nuclear energy is actually the climate neutrality. So I don't think this is really it is not a game changer that you are climate activist and you cannot be pro-nuclear. Actually, no. But then there's another part of Fridays and so many other climate activists and so many other environmentalists that are against. I think it's that debate within us.
Yeah, but I think that's a great statement from those guys and girls, like manifesting. So it's I didn't know I didn't know about it, but it's a huge statement, I think, from youth.
Yeah, just to follow up, I think as well it's a huge statement because there's a big stigma on being pro-nuclear and being an environmentalist, and people like feeling the freedom to do so and come out with these and be pro-nuclear as well as being in a scientific in a climate activist in Fridays for Future. That's big, and I'm very proud of these young people doing so. It's a big step. It is.
Yeah, not only about stepping up for nuclear, but I'm really proud of seeing a lot of youngsters during the last 5 years, like rallying the streets. I think that's that's great, and it gives me a lot of hope. And now maybe we have time for the last question from, I don't know if you, Ale, had found a different question from the last one. I'm kind of lost in the chat. You were amazing, guys, like filling the chat with comments and questions. So if we're not have the possibility to cover your question, we will collect all of them, and we will try to reply to you through a follow-up.
I don't know if Morten is here and he wants to ask the question directly, Morten. Otherwise,
yeah, I can just ask it. So it's on the NIMBY effect. So I'll just read what I wrote. Since nuclear occupies so much less land, will the NIMBY effect not be orders of magnitude higher for renewable energy than for nuclear, since orders of magnitude more people are affected? For example, the new Rolls-Royce small modular reactor will use approximately 10,000 times less land than current wind.
I think that, yeah, the question was about land use and the fact that nuclear power plant compared with the same capacity is using way less land than the same dimension of a wind, for example, farm. I don't know if this is
I can give answer to it. Support for it. I totally agree. From a sustainable and ecological aspect of energy sources, we have to look at the impact on nature and the materials also used for nuclear. The land use is 1,000 times smaller. Also, the materials are magnitude smaller for building a nuclear plant compared to other green energy sources. And these energies, these materials, they come from world countries in Africa, South America, China, where you have to dig up loads of rare earth minerals and metals to make solar panels and wind turbines. And this is very bad for the environment. And it's like kind of a modern way of having climate colonialism. It's like the West is colonializing the poor countries around the world for their materials to build our energy sources. And I think we have to look at the materials. And there's also been a lot of critique around material use and land use lately. And it's very interesting to read those papers on that. Yeah.
Benedetta.
Thank you. I somehow I can agree with the statement, but then I also think we need to understand that huge renewable energy plants are not even sustainable. Like the idea of like not every renewable energy is sustainable. It depends how you do it. Like if we decentralize energy, because if we centralize energy, which is also what nuclear does, we undemocratize energy, first of all, and we are just going from another big energy company to another big energy company, and we are using huge amount of land, and we are destroying the environment, and etc. Instead, if you decentralize energy and you use land that is already covered, because not all our land is green. You know, if you put solar panels on houses, on schools, on restaurants and everything, you're not using any land, and you are giving those people the power to decide about their own energy. So it's also democratizing. So I think we need to rethink the idea of energy. And second, just a small thing, I really think that it's very different. Like, of course, land use is a huge impact on NIMBY, but what's a very big impact is the feeling safe of being next to something. And I don't think we can compare the feeling of safety of being next to a wind power plant than being next to a nuclear power plant. So of course the NIMBY is going to be still stronger, the land use is much bigger sometimes, which I agree it shouldn't be.
I think that we will never end the discussion if we had time. If we would be on a pub drinking beers discussing about nuclear, I think that we're gonna end up on sunrise probably. And that's why it's good to have this kind of conversation with experts in the sector that could give us insights and their thoughts about something that is always that much discussed and not that much like clear in the public opinion. And I take this opportunity to thank everybody that has attended this meeting, especially kudos to Johan and Benedetta. Thank you guys for your availability and for your contribution. Thank you everybody for joining the event. Now we are right on time, 3 minutes later, but we are Yes Europe. We are continuing to do such events as a policy team and as the whole organization. So if you want to keep informed and get in touch, please visit our website, subscribe to our newsletter, and if you want to get in touch with us, contact us at thepolicy@yeseurope.org or contact Beatrice, which is in the call, which is the leader, the policy team lead. I don't know. Thank you, everybody. This was fun from my side. If you don't want to, please unmute yourself and speak up.
I just saw a question regarding a fast question in the chat. It was where I got the data from the Finnish case. It's from the STUK. It's the nuclear safety regulatory body in Finland that wrote several reports on the consequences and worst case scenarios on if the waste repository in Finland disappeared, as I talked before. But the STUK, STUK, yeah.
STUK, great. Thank you again. And I don't know how to end. And that was great. That was fun, so insightful, and we will send you a follow-up email with the blog post or whatever to wrap up what we have here and all the insightful information we collected during this event. Thank you again, and have a good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys. We keep in touch.